This is Radio Free Hillsdale, 101.7 FM, and I'm Scott Bertram. With me today is State Senator Mike Shirkey. You can find him online, senatormikeshirkey.com. Find him on Facebook, perhaps find him at the local coffee shop occasionally as well. Serves the 16th State Senate District, that's Branch, Hillsdale, and Jackson counties, and with us just about every other week to check in. Senator, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Scott. Thank you. We've finished up session for the year last Thursday, and now we're on our official Christmas break. So it's good to. I'm actually heading to Lansing, back to Lansing today as we speak. I've got about 7 meetings in preparation for getting ready for next year, and then I'll probably hit the pause button for 8 or 10 days after that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent plan that most people have around this time of the year. Christmas, New Year's. Take some time, regroup, go after it again in 2018.
That's right.
Let's talk a bit about 2017 first, Senator, and what's been accomplished in Lansing. What should people know has been done in their state capital this year?
Well, there's a pretty good list of things that I think were rather important for us to get done this year. 2 of them that come to my top of my mind. One is our MIPSTERS reform, which is Michigan public school teachers retirement package, private system, and we basically did that in a cooperative way across the board. I won't call it bipartisan, but I will say that there were some Democrats that would have liked to have voted for it, and it took about $8 or $10 billion off the backs of taxpayers going forward by reforming it, making it a more portable system. We listened carefully to the desires of new teachers entering the profession, and they were clear in their desires to want a system that they can manage and it can be portable. Because as you and I know, Scott, today most people will change jobs 5 to 9 times in their careers now, and so that was a big reform. And then another was education related. And it's got 2 elements to it. Was the passing statute that put some pretty strong requirements on 3rd grade reading. In other words, if kids aren't reading at 3rd grade level, then there's a serious consideration whether or not they should advance or not. Very controversial, very important. Ultimately, we put a statute in place that requires them to read at that level, and only through a very defined list of exceptions are they allowed to be, I'll say, socially advanced. But that's the one side of the ledger. The other side of the ledger, as I've learned throughout the rest of the year, is that we may have created some unintended consequences there. And so I've been in close communication with a number of, very specifically, 3rd grade teachers who have proactively and, as far as I'm concerned, positively identified the flaws in some of the legislation that I have made a personal commitment to kind of lead a review and make amendments if we can in the coming year. So I'm hoping that message gets out to some of your listeners.
Senator, on the first half of that answer on the public school pension, anytime you change anything with school teachers, the criticism comes that if you change pension or benefits or salary is not quite set at the state level, but anytime you change anything with teachers, you get the complaint that you're going to make it less attractive for teachers to want to teach. You're not going to have the best people possible teaching Michigan's children. I'm sure you heard that when dealing with this bill. Is that a worry to you? Do you think that that's an issue?
It's a worry, but it's a worry not because of compensation. It's a worry because our culture is changing so much. The teachers have to bear the burden, and my heart hurts over this, but the teachers increasingly have to bear the burden of being a surrogate parent to far too many kids. And I think that is the biggest detriment to people contemplating whether or not they want to go into that profession or not. And government contributes to that because, as you know, you and I have talked about this before, we being government broadly, not just state government, but state, local, and federal, we continue to do things that then results in government being surrogate parents. And so we have created pathways for parents to shuck off off of their shoulders responsibilities that when you and I were growing up, our moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas knew it was their responsibility. And so I think that is a bigger issue than compensation. I believe the laws of supply and demand will work here, and if necessary, we'll have to find ways to pay more if we find that is in fact the biggest constraint. But today, I don't think it's number one.
State Senator Mike Shirkey with us here, Radio Free Hillsdale, 101.7 FM. I'm Scott Bertram. Find him at senatormikeshirkey.com. Before we move on, quickly, 2018, an election year, a gubernatorial race shaping up. Is it more or less likely big things get done in 2018 due to the fact it is an election year?
No, it's less likely. Election years tend to cause people to pull back a bit, particularly those who are running for re-election. I happen to think that's the wrong approach, particularly for the Republican Party in Michigan, since we control both chambers and the governor's office.
Mm-hmm.
But that is generally what happens, that things get ratcheted back a bit, and then the actual election, which occurs in November, would determine whether or not there'll be an active lame duck. And so the biggest things that will get done in 2018, if there are any, will likely occur after the election next November.
All right, Senator Mike Shirkey, I saw this story, I think, in the Free Press over the weekend, and that is on the 5-year anniversary of the right-to-work law. Now, a majority of the country, I think 26 states we're at now, are right to work in the U.S., Michigan, one of them, 5 years ago. Democrats, though, introducing bills now to reverse the right-to-work law in Michigan. We've had 5 years now to see how this has unfolded and how it has affected any number of different sectors in the state. Do you think the right-to-work law has worked as expected thus far?
It has outperformed, not just as expected, but outperformed. Right-to-work, which I labeled labor freedom, where unions are as free to make their case as workers are to make their choice, was an effort on our part to remove the last remaining obstacle prohibiting or inhibiting companies from investing long-term in Michigan. And we have had a national economic cycle here since 2010 or 11, where we've had constant growth nationally. And Michigan has gotten its share and more of investments, particularly in the manufacturing sector. And I can guarantee you that would not have happened if we hadn't passed labor freedom in Michigan.
Now, I keep telling listeners this. I don't want to sound like a broken record. I've been here 2 years now, 2 years, so 2 of the 5 years for right to work. I've not heard a lot of complaints about the setup, other than, of course, from unions and from some Democrats. But, you know, the Michigan citizens, I just haven't heard a lot of complaints about the way that things are set up now under right to work, labor freedom.
Nor have I. And if Democrats want to continue to push that notion of reversing that legislation, we'll have so much data I don't want to turn this year's in my conversation into a political conversation, but we will have so much data to fight that, and I believe it'll help our cause come the next election cycle. It is a freedom issue, plain and simple. Unions, there are examples of unions in Michigan today, Scott, that have actually grown in the last 5 years because they've changed their business model to provide actual measurable value to their members, and members are choosing to stay with a union. But those unions who don't, and I will note for you recent examples of UAW executives who've been charged and convicted with crimes, that does not bode well for that union, because people are smart and they don't want to be associated with organizations that have that kind of leadership. So we empowered workers to have their choice, and we gave a clear path for unions to make their case, and that is a sweet spot that Michigan wants to hang on to forever.
All right, Senator Mike Shirkey. Find him on Facebook, Senator Mike Shirkey, and senatormikeshirkey.com, serving the 16th State Senate District. That's Branch, Hillsdale, and Jackson counties. Senator, we always appreciate your time through the year as you join us here on Radio Free Hillsdale, 101.7 FM. And again, look forward to talking to you in the new year. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you.
Let me leave you with this. We wish you a merry tax cut. We wish you a merry tax cut. We wish you a merry tax cut and a healthy new year.
Very good. And
All right,
if any listeners are left after that, no. I kid. Senator, thank you so much. We'll talk again in 2018. That's State Senator Mike Shirkey. More of our conversations at radiofreehillsdale.com or on our SoundCloud page, soundcloud.com/radiofreehillsdale.